on a cold, quiet night on January 4th, 2012. The fringes of the internet were about to be set on fire by a single image. It was posted on 4chan's X board, a place usually reserved for ghost stories, UFO sightings, and basement-tier creepy. But this wasn't a story. It was an invitation. The image was simple, white text on a black background, featuring a small, stylized cicada insect at the bottom. It read, "Hello. We are looking for highly intelligent individuals. To find them, we have devised a test. There is a message hidden in this image. Find it, and it will lead you on the road to finding us. We look forward to meeting the few that will make it all the way through. Good luck." 3,301. Most people scrolled past it, thinking it was another alternate reality game or a marketing stunt for a movie that would never come out. But for a handful of cryptographers, hackers, and bored geniuses, it was the start of a decade-long obsession that would blur the lines between the digital world and physical reality. This was the birth of Cicada 3301, a mystery so deep, so technically demanding, and so intellectually vast that even today, the world's most powerful intelligence agencies haven't officially cracked its origin or its purpose. To understand why Cicada is the king of internet mysteries, you have to understand the sheer technical brutality of its puzzles. It wasn't just about finding a hidden word. It was about mastering the entire history of communication and security. The first step was a lesson in steganography, the art of hiding information in plain sight. If you opened that original JPEG file in a hex editor, or even just a simple text editor like Notepad, you'd find a string of nonsense appended to the bottom. It mentioned Tiberius, Claudius, Caesar, and a string of garbled characters. To a student of history, the hint was obvious. The Caesar cipher, specifically, since Claudius was the fourth Roman emperor, the shift was 4 places. Decrypting that string gave you a URL, but Cicada was already testing you. If you were lazy and just followed the link, you were greeted by a picture of a wooden duck and a mocking message. Whoa, just guesses. Looks like you can't guess how to get the message out. The duck was a troll, but it was also a hint. The real message wasn't the URL. It was asterisk inside asterisk, the duck image. Using a specialized tool called outguess, which identifies data hidden in the noise of a digital image, the seekers found a hidden folder containing a link to a... On that subreddit, things turned from a game into a full-blown cryptographic war. There were strange strings of characters being posted, and the only way to solve them was through a book code. You had to find a specific book, go to a specific page, and use the letters to reconstruct a message. But which book? The hint was hidden in the headers of the subreddit, a series of Mayan numerals. Once the numbers were decoded, they pointed to the Mabinogion, a collection of medieval Welsh manuscript. This wasn't just coding anymore. This was a test of cultural literacy. The decoded message from the Welsh stories led to a telephone number in Texas. When people called it a robotic, synthesized voice answered, telling them that there were 3 prime numbers associated with the original image. Multiply them at a.com, and you'd find the next step. At this point, the internet went into a frenzy. Thousands of people joined IRC chat rooms, sharing ideas, writing scripts to brute force equations, and debating the philosophy of the group. But Cicada was watching. They realized the crowd was getting too big. They only wanted the elite. When the lucky few finally reached the next website, they saw a ticking countdown clock. When it hit 0, the screen changed to show 14 GPS coordinates. These weren't digital addresses. They were physical locations on Earth. Warsaw, Paris, Seattle, Seoul, Arizona, California, Sydney. The mystery had stepped out of the monitor and into the streets. In every one of those 14 locations, a physical poster had been taped to a telephone pole. It featured the Cicada logo and a QR code. This was the moment everyone realized Cicada 3301 wasn't just one guy in a bedroom. It was a global organization with boots on the ground in 3 different continents. They had the resources to coordinate a worldwide scavenger hunt in a matter of hours. Before we dive into the second and third rounds of Cicada and the runic book that remains a nightmare for linguists, if you appreciate deep technical dives into the internet's darkest secrets, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. We analyze the architecture of the unknown, and your support helps us keep the lights on in the server room. The first round of 2012 ended with a final message. We have found the individuals we were looking for. The select few who made it all the way were invited to a private space on the Tor network. One of the winners, a young developer named Marcus Warner, eventually leaked what happened next. He was asked to fill out an ideological survey about privacy, censorship, and the nature of information. Cicada 3301, it seemed, wasn't looking for employees. They were looking for brothers in. They claimed to be a non-political, decentralized think tank aimed at creating software to protect the anonymity of whistleblowers and journalists. But then, as quickly as it started, the communication went dark. The group claimed they were re-evaluating their goals, and the winners were left in a vacuum of silence. But a year later, on January 4th, 2013, the cicada chirped again. A new image, a new challenge. This time, the difficulty was exponential. They moved away from simple ciphers and into the realm of high-level mathematics and musical theory. One puzzle involved an MP3 file that, when analyzed through a spectrogram, revealed a hidden image in the sound waves. Another involved an RSA encryption key with a modulus that was hundreds of digits long. They were testing for the ability to handle massive datasets and recognize patterns in abstract sound. This round focused heavily on the works of William Blake and the occultist Aleister Crowley. The puzzles were dripping with philosophy, emphasizing the idea that the self is a prison and that true intelligence requires the destruction of the ego. It started to feel less like a recruitment drive for a tech company and more like a recruitment drive for a digital cult. Then came 2014, and the introduction of the most legendary artifact in internet history, the Libra Primus. It is a book, but not a book you can read. Every page is written in a secret runic alphabet that Cicada developed themselves. It is a 58-page manifesto of their philosophy, mixed with some of the most complex mathematical riddles ever devised. To this day, only about 15 to 20 pages have been translated. The translated sections speak of the end of the world, the emergence of the great cicada, and the necessity of encryption to save humanity from the tyranny of the known. The remaining pages are a wall of runes and numbers that have resisted the best efforts of the world's most powerful computers for nearly a decade. Some believe the book contains a hash that, if solved, would act as a private key to an astronomical sum of Bitcoin, or perhaps a master password to a new, dark internet. Others believe it is a set of instructions for a distributed AI. The theories regarding who is behind 3301 are as diverse as the puzzles themselves. The most obvious suspect is a government agency like the NSA or CIA. They have used puzzles for recruitment before GCHQ, famously put a puzzle in the Daily Telegraph to find code breakers during World War II. But the tone of Cicada is radically anti-government and pro-anonymity. It promotes the idea of the cypherpunk using strong cryptography to protect the individual from the state. Would the NSA really recruit people by telling them to dismantle the system? Unlikely. Then there's the theory of a banking cartel. Some argue that a group of high-level financiers created Cicada to find geniuses who could build a new, unhackable global currency. Then there are the darker theories, that Cicada is a rogue artificial intelligence that is birthing itself through the internet, using humans to write its code and solve its processing bottlenecks. Or perhaps it's just a collective of geniuses, a group of people who are simply smarter than everyone else and want to see if anyone can catch up. The reality is that Cicada 3301 represents the holy grail of the internet because it satisfies our primal need for mystery. In an era where every question can be answered by a 5-second Google search, Cicada gave us a question that no search engine can solve. It forced people to go back to libraries, to study 18th century poetry, to learn how to use Linux terminals, and to travel to physical locations in the middle of the night. It proved that even in a hyper-connected world, you can still be alone in the dark. It showed that highly intelligent individuals are not just people who know facts. But people who have the grit to stay in the fight when the answers stop being easy. But let's look at the no-fluff technical reality. The infrastructure Cicada used was flawless. They're PGP signatures away of verifying that a message truly came from them have never been forged. Every communication was signed with the same 2048-bit RSA key. In 10 years, through multiple rounds and thousands of public messages, they never made a single security mistake that would reveal their IP address or their physical identity. That level of operational security OPSEC is almost unheard of. It suggests a level of professional training that rivals the Mossad or the FBI. They knew how to navigate the Tor network, how to use onion routing to hide their tracks, and how to use distributed servers that would be impossible to shut down. As a developer or a tech enthusiast, Cicada should be your benchmark. It is the ultimate example of how code, math, and art can be woven into a weapon of influence. The people behind Cicada didn't need a marketing budget. They just needed an idea that was difficult enough to be respected. They weaponized curiosity. They created a filter for the human mind. If you could solve the duck, you were smarter than 90% of the internet. If you could solve the Mabinogian, you were smarter than 95%. If you could solve the Liber Primus, you might be one of the people who actually runs the world. Today, the Cicada is mostly silent. The 2014 round was the last official one, though a few cryptic messages have appeared over the years with the correct PGP signature. The Liber Primus remains the ultimate boss level, a digital sphinx, staring back at a humanity that is increasingly reliant on shallow AI to do its thinking. The mystery has entered its legend phase. It has inspired countless imitators, but none have the soul or the depth of the original. Cicada 3301 was a moment in time, a glitch in the matrix reminding us that the internet is a vast, dark forest, and we've only explored the illuminated edges. If you're rewatching this and you re-inspired to start your own journey into the depths of technology, whether it has to solve the next great mystery or to build the infrastructure of the future, you need a machine that doesn't hold you back. You could want hunt for hidden data in 4,000 images or run complex spectrogram analysis on a laptop that freezes when you open more than 3 Chrome tabs. Efficiency is the foundation of genius. If you want to turbocharge your development station, I've put together a curated list in the description of high-performance hardware. I'm talking about mechanical keyboards with zero latency, monitors that let you see every line of code without eye strain, and NVMe SSDs that load data at the speed of thought. You don't need to be a member of a secret society to have the best tools. You just need to stop settling for mediocre hardware. Cicada 3301 left us with a final piece of advice in the translated pages of the Liber Primus. Everything that exists is a code. Everything is information. Your career, your bank account, your identity, it's all just bits and bytes. The question is, are you the person who reads the code, or are you the code that is being read? The difference is knowledge. The difference is curiosity. The difference is the willingness to stare into the black background until the white text starts to make sense. Don't wait for a sign on a telephone pole. The test is already happening every single day. The world is looking for highly intelligent individuals. Are you one of them? Good luck. 3301. Stay curious. Keep your keys secure. And never stop digging. We'll see you in the next deep dive into the shadows of the web. Make sure you check your subscription. You don't want to miss what we find next.